The power and complexity of the human brain is quite remarkable. 100 billion nerve cells. That means that if you spent your entire life, day and night, not even sleeping, trying to count all of your neurons, you would die before you got to 100 billion. And when you consider the fact that there's even more structural supporting cells, more cells known as glia. We used to think those were just nutritional and structural support. We now know that the glia are involved in thought processes. And what sets the brain apart from the other body organ systems is the categories of cells. The liver will have 24 different categories, heart 22 different categories. Those are very complex organs. We can't live without them. But the brain has thousands of different types of categories that are so different from each other, we have to categorize them differently. And that makes your 2.5 pound brain, or a little more than 1 kilogram brain, a remarkable, complex organ. In fact, it's the most complex structure ever investigated by science. Now let's take a look at the connections, what we call the synapse. This is where neurons communicate with each other. And an electrical signal will occur that will release chemicals, and if the receptor nerve is able to pick up on those chemicals, then another electrical transmission occurs. And this is the area of the brain that virtually every pharmaceutical company in the world is trying to manipulate because of the prevalence of mental disorders. They're trying to make more of a certain neurochemical available, what we call a neurotransmitter. And one neuron will make an average connection with 1,000 neurons. The Purkinje cell that you see diagrammed there, 200,000 connections. One neuron influencing 200,000 others. Now, if we were to add up all of the connections in the human brain, the most conservative estimate is 100 trillion. There's actually evidence now that it's 10 times as many more. That makes even the US national debt, let's say the world national debt, a small number in comparison with the amount of connections that you have in your human brain. Now, when we're dealing with an organ that's that complex, we shouldn't be surprised that things can go wrong with it. Have you ever had a computer for several years and never had anything go wrong with it? And a computer is far more simplistic than your human brain. The space shuttle starts getting more complex because there's so many computers on board. And of course, things have gone vastly wrong with the space shuttle, but the engineers tell us things went wrong with every mission. It was such a complex structure. So we shouldn't be surprised that things can go wrong with our human brain. And as you are listening and viewing this today, over 1 out of 4 people actually have a diagnosable mental disorder in any given year. That's a severe disorder. That's not talking about minor mental problems, but major mental problems that are actually adversely affecting your ability to function, adversely affecting your relationships. In America alone, it's over 60 million people that have a diagnosable mental disorder. And when we take a look at it from a world perspective, it's even, of course, far greater than that. There's essentially only 2 categories of people: those who know someone with a mental disorder, or those who have a mental disorder themselves. And there are some people that have corrected me, say, no, there's a 3rd category, those who cause others to have a mental disorder. But if you're in that category, you're actually in the 2nd category. You have a mental disorder yourself. So the cost of all of this is something worth considering as well. Just take a look at one mental disorder that we'll focus in on, depression. If we take a look at the financial cost of that, the average person that is working and functional with depression is losing about 6 hours of productive work per week. 80% are impaired in daily functioning. They have less ability to concentrate. They have lower efficiency, less ability to organize their work. and they're over twice as likely to take sick days. In fact, depression is the #1 cause of disability, the #1 reason why productive people that would otherwise be productive in their productive years of life are not working. And in one study, if you took medicine for depression, you were actually more likely to miss work due to one of the prevalent side effects of an I don't care attitude being added to the equation. Depressed people are 7 times more likely to become unemployed. So whenever there's a downturn in the economy, the depressed people get cherry-picked because of their lack of efficiency. One study actually took a look at the long-term financial problems. They followed people with depression or anxiety for 40 years to determine the effects of their illness. And they found out that there were 7 fewer weeks of work per year, a loss of a significant number, 35% in lifetime income, and a lifetime loss for each family member who has a depressed individual in their family of $300,000. The personal loss to the individual themselves was $10,400 less income per year by the time they were 50. And the cost for the total group that was studied was $2.1 trillion. That actually tells us there would be no national debt in America or in the world if we were able to eliminate depression and anxiety. And I'm here to tell you today, we actually can. There is a way to reverse these conditions and put you in a position where you're actually far better, far more emotionally intelligent than people who have never had depression. Now, I'll just tell you why a lot of people don't go through the education that their brain needs to get better, or don't go through a therapeutic program that's going to be a comprehensive program, is simply due to cost. Yes, I'll admit, the cost of our therapeutic program is a little less than $10,000. That's a significant cost. But if you can recuperate that in 1 year, that's a great investment, because years afterwards, you'll recuperate that far more. And when you consider $300,000 over a lifetime, the earlier you can get treatment, the better as far as completely reversing this disease. And then some people will even not come to an educational program because it will cost several $100s. I'm telling you, several $100s is the best investment you can make if it optimizes your brain, gets rid of depression and anxiety, and improves your emotional intelligence. So don't just settle for the complications of this disease. Recognize that something can be done about it. And when you do what needs to be done, the condition can indeed be cured.